Yes. Hello, welcome. It is season 1, episode 36 of UK Cowboys TV, which also happens to be my age, given how old I am.
Very fresh looking man.
I had a light paper round. It is the pre-game show for probably, I would say, the most important game of the season. We are deep into whether you make it or break it. And this really is the make it or break it game. We have the Eagles, which we are playing this weekend on Sunday at 9:25 p.m. and it's on Sky Sports. So everybody, unless you only watch it on Game Pass, which means everybody's sad. There we go. Can't please everyone. No. But yes, we'll just. Sorry, I'm losing track of where I am. Today with Brian Gaynor. If you continue to watch the show later on in part 2, he has an interview with the one and only NFL Networks Jane Slater. Yeah, she's back for round 2. So Brian got the opportunity to sit down privately and have a one-on-one with him. Oh, lucky you.
And a very nice one-on-one it was.
It always is. It always is. Whenever we have any special guest, it's always a lovely one-on-one.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Absolutely 100% pleasure to deal with someone who was so willing to give up their time to us and not ask for anything in return from us in any way. You know, it was great. And as you say, it's great that we have people like her, like RJ earlier in the week, like Brian Broadus, who, you know, not only come on the show, they give of their time freely and are available to us, you know, to talk at any time. Anytime we want information, they make themselves available. So thank you to all of them.
Although although it's free, Jane Slater has said that when she comes over here in the UK, we've got to take her on basically a booze trip around London. So
that's no trouble at all.
Jane, I did warn her it's tequila and Jaeger though, and she was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, at least she's only saying that. I mean, I think when we had Taylor on, Taylor wanted to go to a soccer match, and was all about the violence. So that could be interesting.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I was speaking to Tyrone West Coast, and he said when he's coming over, he's sleeping here. So I was like, that's fine. I said, but bear in mind, it's like a 3-hour drive to London from here. But America, 3-hour drive is like round the corner, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
We're not used to long distance traveling over here. But anyway, we are waffling on, almost like we did last week when we'd had a few beers. We'll just do a quick injury update. So a few guys who have popped up on the injury list this week.
Yeah.
Leighton Van Resch, still continuing with that neck issue. We've had Tyron Smith pop up with an eye issue. It's closed up. It's a sty or something like that.
Yeah.
Back has popped up, which is quite scary, with a shoulder issue. But it was announced today that he will play. He's able to play through it. It's not been an issue. So that's good news. Yeah. Sean Lee popped up. I'm wondering though if perhaps that's just like last week where they give him
Veterans Day.
Yeah, he did. He was out and did not participate. But Michael Bennett's popped up with illness.
Yeah.
So that will be probably touch and go whether he plays. I think he will. Yeah. But the big one, an issue is Joe Thomas has popped up this week, continuing with the issue he had from last week's game.
Yeah.
I don't know. That might be one I can't really comment on. I'll try and find out a bit more info.
Yeah.
But from all those injuries, who's the worst? Who's the scariest for you, Brian?
The scariest of that list, obviously, would be Dak. But I mean, I think we've all read during the week. We've seen the commentary from, and especially from your man Travis Frederick.
Yeah,
there is no way in hell Dak is going to miss this game. He hasn't missed a snap that he has had to participate in over the last 4 years. You know, it's going to take hell and high water to keep him off the field for Sunday. So I'm not worried about that. I think the position that we do need to be wary of is linebackers. I think, the fact that Joe Thomas has gone down, Luke Gifford went to IR this week as well. We've brought in Malcolm Smith, who has played and won a Super Bowl. So
Super Bowl MVP.
There we go. So how much that impacts on things? I mean, if we have a similar level of performance from Jalen and the General on Sunday, I have no concerns.
yeah. And just as you said about Travis Frederick making his comment, I just want to add one little bracket in there. Pro Bowler, Travis Frederick. He made the Pro Bowl.
Very true, very true. Now, I will admit, I was surprised by that. I think if Travis himself was being honest, I'd say he was probably surprised by it. But I mean, I think, let's be honest, look, the Pro Bowl is nothing other than a glorified popularity contest at this stage.
That's correct. That's all it is, just basically who people, the name you like the most. And Travis Frederick does carry the name. Although I will say the only thing going in Travis Frederick's favour is that, bar them really weird penalties he had for tripping, was about, and we still will never know. He has given up very few penalties on the for a centre, to do that, especially at the level he plays at, is quite, I suppose, impressive. Especially when you think how far he's come from last year, when it is a guy who walk up a set of stairs to play in, at the level he's at. It is quite impressive. So good on him. I'm always for Travis. Sorry, somebody's trying to let themselves into my office.
At the door.
Funny, that was mini Travis trying to let himself in there. But let's move on to the Cowboys offense then. For yourself, Brian, with the Cowboys, what's most crucial in order to achieve success in this game?
I cried out for it all season, and finally on Sunday, it happened. We ran the damn ball. And look at the results it generated. We had two guys who went over 100 yards. We had two guys who scored touchdowns. It's the first time I think it's happened in franchise history that we've had two rushers go for 100 yards and a touchdown in 2 games in a season. So props to them. I think the biggest thing was the O-line absolutely demolished.
They did their job.
They did their job. They were outstanding. So I am looking forward to seeing the exact same smash mouth Dallas Cowboys run the damn ball offense.
Okay. So here's one thing I'm going to tell you that's going to make you quiver in your boots. The Eagles defense, although it's not particularly amazing, the one thing they are good at is run defense. They're actually third in yards allowed on the ground.
Yeah. And that is the flip side of it. And, you do have to give props to the Eagles. They have, as much and all as they've struggled offensively this season, their defense is legit. They have a lot of big guys, a lot of fatties in there who are well able to stop the run. They also have guys who are well able to get at the quarterback. I mean, Derek Barnett and the other guy is escaping me at the minute, but they got it back in Dallas, so they do have great rush defense.
But the only thing I will say on Derek Barnett is he's turned up on the injury report this week. Which,
to be fair to them though, they're a team that does have depth at that position as well,
They are a team when it comes to I know we moved to the defense in a moment, but their D-line is probably just the same as their O-line. Their O-line and their D-line are both the strongest parts of their game. One thing that is, I think, quite important to note with the Cowboys offense is our two top receivers, Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. Individually, they have more yards than their number one receiver, which happens to be Zach Ertz. I know we'll move to the Eagles offense a bit later on. But, both of them have way more yards as well than Dak. So the issue that they have is injuries, which, as I say, we'll move on to them in a moment. But one thing they aren't particularly good at is their pass defense. They rank quite low down. So I think this is going to be a particular game for Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, as I just mentioned, for them pair to both hit their stride. I think this is a game, especially when you looked at the last time when they played and they were more at strength, still beat them by 27 points, which I think I heard somewhere was the biggest win difference against the Eagles in quite some time, in quite a few years. Good news is, though, in the last 10 years, the Cowboys playing at Lincoln Financial Field have won 8 times.
That's a nice stat.
I like that one.
Yeah.
And we've won the last 4 as well. So that's all going good. So, for me, I think it's going to be pass. You're going for the run. I'm going for the pass.
Yeah.
But
I think that's kind of the way it's going to be on Sunday. Is it's very much going to be a pick your poison.
Yeah.
The Cowboys can try and play the run, or they can try and play the RPO. And that's what I think they will try and do. Is Dak is going to be very late in deciding what the play is going to be, and basing it a lot on what he sees in front of him. Because as we say, and this was something I found out from Jane, was the weather is actually hotter in Philadelphia at the minute than it is in Texas. So they've been training outside all week in anticipation of the weather being reasonably good. So it's not as if you're going to have a wet ball that's going to be thrown around, or it's going to be cold. It's going to be quite warm. So we can play the pass game as well.
Okay.
So it will open up.
Yeah, I like that. Good point to note there. So I know we touched on them briefly, the Eagles defense. So what are the Eagles defense going to be looking to do to disrupt the Cowboys offense then, Brian?
They are going to look to stuff the middle. They're very much going to, like that, they're going to be in on Zach, Travis, and I would imagine they are going to target Xavier Su'a-Filo. Because, and it's not a disrespectful thing to say that Su'a-Filo is the weak link on that line, because he's held himself in very fine fettle, but of those 5 linemen, obviously he would be the least decorated or celebrated, and that's where you should, you always try and hammer the weakness of your opponent. But in saying that, I mean, how many times last week did we hear the name Aaron Donald?
That was what I was just about to say. I mean, that guy actually held Su'a-Filo. I know we say he's the least decorated, which is true. Actually, true. He went up against like the number 1 defensive tackle in the NFL and held his own. Yeah.
And for me, he's probably going up against the number 2 defensive tackle this weekend in Fletcher Cox.
Yeah.
But and like I think it's something that we can. We took this from the game at the weekend, and even last year in the divisional round game, that Connor Williams also kept Aaron Donald very, very well in tow. So that that's a feather in their cap, and if Su'a-Filo can have a similar game, I'd be happy, because that's where I would expect the Eagles to go at us.
Yeah, and I think the only other 2 issues we got is they do have randomly. We were talking about the pass defense a moment ago. Randomly, the only 2 other good players I would say for them is their 2 safeties, Malcolm Jenkins and Rodney McLeod. They're both doing fine. I mean, McLeod, I think, is actually leading the Eagles in tackles. Yeah. I know that's not a good thing to say when it comes to your safety.
No.
But he's still getting the job done. It's a bit of a weird one with them. I would always say, though, their defensive line is their strongest position.
Yeah.
On the Eagles roster, that's their strong part. But let's move it over to the other side then, the Cowboys defense. So what are we going to do to stop the Eagles?
What are we going to do? Like, I think for once we're going to have potentially an easy game in the secondary, or hopefully we will. I think we're going to repeat a lot of what we said when we spoke about this game in week 9.
Yeah.
That a lot of what they're going to do is going to be to the tight ends, you know. So we kind of mentioned it in that pre-game, was that will Jeff Heath pick up Zach Ertz or Dallas Goedert to cover the tight end? And then who's going to cover the other tight end? You know, will that be Jordan Lewis now, who's really balling out this year? I would expect Jordan Lewis to maybe go with Dallas Goedert, because Goedert's an inconsistent player. And then, as we say, our other corners should have an easier game, given that, you know, Carson Wentz only threw to one other wide receiver last weekend, who is a converted cornerback.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, like, when you look at what the Cowboys are going to do you think this is a game for Robert Quinn, DeMarcus Lawrence to try and get in there, disrupt Carson Wentz, slow down what he can do back there? Do you think this is going to be an opportunity for that sort of game?
I think it will be, yes. And I think, as we kind of have said over the last couple of weeks, I think the O-line last weekend went in peed off. And they showed up. I think a lot of us have gotten on the defensive line in the last few weeks, saying the sacks aren't there, the numbers aren't there, the turnovers aren't there. And no better jersey to see than a Philadelphia Eagles jersey than to make this Dallas defensive line stand up and rip them a new one.
Yeah.
You know,
will Jordan Lewis perhaps get another sack? Is this that sort of game, or do you think he's not going to have the opportunity? He's going to be playing more deep?
As I say, it depends on who picks him up, because who picks up the tight ends, because you could have Byron filling into that role, and then Jordan Lewis is playing on an island. So it depends on what way Richard and Marinelli want to play the secondary. I'd have no problem with letting him loose and letting him go, because the guy is just getting around the ball so often in the last few weeks. You just have to turn him loose, you know. And like, if he has 4 sacks already. I think he's the second highest for cornerbacks. He's not a full-time starter, which is ridiculous. That's the stat line is, you know, how he's performing. So it'll depend on that, but I turn him loose.
Yeah,
if you're comfortable with Byron.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is a tricky one, because you need to move a safety down to cover Zach Ertz, so then you can have your two on the outside, because they do play a lot of 12-man personnel, which is the issue. So it makes me wonder. Jordan's quite a shorter guy, so I wonder how that would fare with him playing a tight end. I'm not sure. I'm still on the fence on how I would use him, if you know what I mean. Would I, you know, I'm almost with you on it. You know. Does Sean Lee have another big game, do you think?
I think Sean Lee, he won't have the same level as he had last weekend, but I think he will still have a big game. You know, I mean, we don't call him the general for no reason. And I think it's a horrible thing to say, but I don't know how long Sean Lee has left. And if this was his last season, and this is his last game against the Philadelphia Eagles, he's going to want to go out, blood, sweat, and tears, and rip them asunder. You know, we saw some of the interviews, or the sideline commentary, and like, you could see the interviews with Sean Lee. He was ripped up, like, you know, there's blood everywhere on his cleats and stuff like that, you know. And I think he will want to go out on a winning note. He will want to go out on a great performance as well. So I think he will be someone to watch. Yes.
Yeah, and ironically, he's a guy who always seems to play well against the Eagles. He
Yes.
seems to know where they're going. He's got their card marked, if you like.
Yeah.
But let's look at the Eagles' offense then. So we'll look at their playmakers and how they're going to try and take on the Dallas defense. But before we go there, I'm just going to add this to the mix. Their 3 wide receivers, Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, and Nelson Aguilar, are looking like they're not going to be playing this game.
Does this mean we get Josh McCown at wide receiver?
So you can see why they are struggling at the moment, especially when their rookie wide receiver, JJ Arcega-Whiteside's been really quiet this season. And I had him as like one of my top 5 wide receivers in the draft. Yeah. I'm not sure. I think he might have been 3rd, in fact. A guy from Stanford who just had a crazy season, especially touchdown-wise, and this year is just completely gone below the wayside.
Yeah.
They do have a wide receiver, Greg Ward, who is, as we always say, whenever a team comes to play the Cowboys, somebody gets on form. For them, it's Greg Ward. But in terms of the offense, apart from, as we mentioned, Zach Ertz, Carson Wentz has been their biggest playmakers. What are they going to be looking to do to try and get success against the defense?
I think I think they need to get matchups one-on-one matchups out wide. And as we say, sometimes against this Dallas defense, someone shows up, and I think you might have flagged it already, saying JJ Arcega-Whiteside. He's done nothing to date, and he could be the guy who turns up. The fact that he wasn't targeted at all by Wentz last week. If I was an Eagles fan, I would, well, apart from not wanting to be very happy, I would be concerned that he's not targeting and there's no chemistry there with your new wide receiver. The fact that, as we say, they brought in Greg Ward last weekend, converted cornerback, and he was the target. That's worrying to me because he shouldn't be who you target. So I would imagine that, like, one of the keys to beating the Cowboys is to get the ball out to the wide receivers, because we always give them too much space.
Okay.
And not in the face. So that's what they should be doing.
All right then. But one thing I was going to say is something the Cowboys have been struggling with all season is running backs and rushing. We seem to make everyone look good when they run in Thursday. Miles Sanders, I know they got Jordan Howard, but he seems to be coming off the ball lately. Miles Sanders, although he's okay rushing, he seems to be more of a scat back, receiving running back. So do you think that plays into the Cowboys' favor, or is he going to have a big day?
I think it'll play into our favor. I think I wouldn't be overly worried about Sanders or Howard. Famous last words that probably carve us a soul. But I wouldn't be overly worried about what their production just doesn't seem to be there. I don't know what is going on with the Eagles' offense this year. It just doesn't seem to be clicking. There seems to be something. The chemistry there is not right. I don't know what it is. Like, I made the prediction a couple of weeks ago that the Dolphins would beat them, and I was quite confident in saying that. I don't fancy the Eagles to win a shootout. I don't know what it is that's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. But I can't see the running backs being a threat.
Yeah, one of the things we was talking about, and we touched on it in the post-game show only briefly with RJ. I was saying, just like the Eagles' offense, when you watch it, it just seems to be so clunky and slow. It seems to be slow to get moving, and it's like, and it's so far removed from what it was before. It's very strange.
And even like that, that those Doug Peterson special plays, or they they just don't seem to be coming off. There just seems to be a dynamism is not there for them. So who knows?
Yeah. Okay. So let's get on to a hot take then. So give me your hot take, Mr. Gaynor. What is it going to be?
I'm giving 2 this week. Going to give 2. My one hot take I've consistently said, Jeff Heath is going to intercept Carson Wentz. He's going to take it away.
Yeah, all right, Jeff Heath.
I've been saying it for every week all season. It has to happen finally. My other hot take will be Zeke will get 2 touchdowns in this game. I think Zeke is just the O-line stood up last weekend, and I think they will stand up again. No bigger game to go into in Lincoln Field against your biggest rival, and just want to beat up on somebody. So that would be my 2 hot takes. In terms of score prediction, I'm going to go with 21-15 to the Cowboys.
Ooh, you got it closer than what I got it. So my hot take is I'm going with 4 receiving touchdowns.
Ooh.
Right, that's right. But they're going to be spread out. So 4 receiving touchdowns, 1 to Cooper.
Yes.
1 to Gallup.
Yes.
1 to Zeke.
Right.
And 1 to Pollard.
None for old man Witt?
I think he'll have a nice game. He's going to have a typical tight end game at the moment, like 40 yards, something like that. One will be one of them 20-yard third down conversion plays that we always seem to land him with. But no touchdowns there. But here's one for you. I'm going to ask you with a hot take. How does Kai Forbach do? Does he hit every single kick again in this game?
I think he will, yeah. I mean, I like for a guy who was coming in last weekend, knowing what had gone before him, he kicked with confidence. He kicked well. Now, obviously, he's going to be outdoors on Saturday or Sunday, but I do think he will still. I think he will still be 100%. I think it was Taylor or Tiny Jim said this in the pre-match that he hit from nearly 60 yards. I think it was a 59 or 58 yarder that he hit in the warm-ups. So I don't think he's going to hit from that distance.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he hits from the mid to late 40s.
Yeah, but I mean, he was doing that in the last game. Actually, all of his kicks were in the 40s, later in the late 40s. So I think he did all right. I know there was the initial kickoff. People talk about that. I wonder if all the distractions that were happening before the kickoff had an effect on him.
Potentially, and the thing is, he to be fair to Kai, he did not let that get into his head.
No.
I think if that had been Brett Maher, it would have been in his head. Damn, I kicked the ball out, and Forbach went 7 from 7 after that, or 8 from 8.
With all of it.
Yeah. So he went 8 from 8, and even after that, he still pulled another one out of bounds. But, there just seemed to be a calmness and a confidence in his kicking. So I think he will go 100%.
Yeah, me too. But I mean, we've wrapped that up. When there's only 2 of us, we rip through the show.
Absolutely, we did.
Yeah, so I think we've covered enough for this one. Now, make sure whatever you do, not to stop watching. You'll probably see the time's still got a lot left. That's because part 2 with Jane Slater is coming up. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, the podcast. It's all going on. And we will continue to stay with the Cowboys as the season rolls on. And we make the playoffs going into the Super Bowl. I predicted this at the start of the season. We'll be the first team that goes 8-8 and wins the Super Bowl.
Are we not beating the Redskins?
Yeah, we're beating the Redskins. See, I knew I'd have you. But thank you very much, Brian, for joining me and doing the interview with Jane Slater. We'll see you on Monday. We've got another special guest, and we'll see you all then.
Good night. Thanks for joining us again. Really appreciate you taking the time, and especially with today being the busiest day in your week. So if you can give us a quick rundown on the injuries, the report that you have to hand. We know that Leighton is still out this week. Dak was reported with a shoulder injury. So have we gotten any updates, or will everyone be ready to go bar Leighton?
Well, Jason Garrett will talk here in about 45 minutes Texas time. But, when I was at the facility yesterday, I know there were some news organizations and reporters who blew up this Dak's shoulder situation. And look, he has been available for every single game as an NFL starter. And this is the first time we've seen him limited in practice. And he has played through, ankle injuries and things, especially like the finger 2 weeks ago. But I would point out that he did play through this shoulder situation when he injured it early in the first quarter against the Rams game, went 15 of 23, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Now, I have heard that there are reports that, of course, you start swelling a couple of days after, and that's what's making it sore. I only saw him throw one very soft pass in a drill, and I don't know if we could actually even count that as a throw. He was definitely limited, and when he was stretching, it was with his left hand, not his right hand. When Zeke needed a ball during practice, he sort of pitched it with his left hand. So it's definitely sore. But a person in the organization that I trust, one of my sources, told me that he's had an MRI. Structurally, they're not concerned about it, but they are characterizing it as sore. But I was told that he's going to play. Even Travis Frederick said that you'd have to have a leash to keep him off the field. So we're definitely – I would be very shocked if he is a do not play on Sunday. I expect him to play. And if you know Dak Prescott – he's not going to sit out a game like this. It's just not who he is. As you referenced, the linebacker situation, they don't have Luke Gifford. He went on IR. Leighton Vander Esch is still not anticipated to play on Sunday, but they did go out and get Malcolm Smith, who, while he's 6 years removed from the Super Bowl, he was a defensive MVP, worked in Chris Richard's system, and sort of like Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett leads the team in sacks since he's been here, and so maybe this is sort of the veteran leadership, a guy that's been there that can help this locker room.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for that. So if we dive in headlong into the Eagles game, so the key to this game probably is going to be our offense against the Eagles defense. So what really will be the key to this game? Is it going to be a case of, like we saw at the weekend against the Rams, that Zeke is the dominant force in the game to try and run the ball a lot?
Well, especially if Dak's got this shoulder situation, and there's a couple of magical numbers to keep an eye on. When they have at least 130 yards of rushing on the ground, they're 5-0 this season. Yeah. And then if Dak Prescott attempts 32 passes or less, they're 5-0. So, of course, you saw what Tony Pollard can do. You saw how effective Ezekiel Elliott can be. And I actually caught up with Zeke yesterday in the locker room, and I said, how are you feeling in the season? Does it help to have Tony Pollard? Because in years past, you've been sort of shouldered with carrying the load. And he said he has never felt this fresh at this point in the season. He said last year at this time, he felt like a grandpa. And so he said having a guy like Tony Pollard we also talked about the game plan doesn't change when Tony Pollard comes off the field. I thought that was interesting because Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, when we saw the Saints utilize them, they were very different backs. But essentially Ezekiel Elliott's saying that they don't change the game plan when he comes off, that he is so versatile. He's so great in the passing game as well as the receiving game. And he even pointed out, he was sort of underutilized at Memphis. He was used more as a receiver. So the fact he's had so much success here, blocking, running, etc., his rookie season has been huge. And it seems like Zeke has really embraced having a guy like that on this roster. So, I say 100% you go with the run game, especially when you consider Amari, Michael Gallup, and Brandon Cobb. 22 catches for just 3 yards, and they were able to get the win. And even Randall Cobb told me, he said, we're an attacking offense. We're going to attack them in their weak spots. So 1 week, if that's passing, great. If that happens to be the running game, that's great too. So I've always said this team was talented. They've got to, in other words, opponents have to pick their poison. They just haven't had a good job of like getting it all together. If they play the complementary football we saw against a really good Rams team that had their backs against the wall, they couldn't afford to lose. I believe this team can make a run.
Yeah. Very good. So, who are we looking for on the Eagles' defense? Who do we need to stay away from? As you say, like picking the poison. They have a very good run defense. So, are we looking to beat them up in the secondary again, which we did in Dallas?
I think that's going to be the key again. But again, with this running game being as efficient as they are, I think the problem with the Eagles right now, everyone that I've talked to is just, it feels like they had to go out and pay a bunch of guys, and just the chemistry is not what they were looking for this season. So they haven't been playing complementary football. I think the biggest thing that's working against the Cowboys isn't so much the defense or the offense. I mean, Carson Wentz has struggled to hold the ball this year. When you look at their receivers, Greg Ward Jr. was the only receiver to catch a ball in Week 15. I think it's going to be the atmosphere. That atmosphere is intimidating. It is. I was sitting in the press box. I believe it was last year. Was it last year? Yes, it was last year.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the press box, and there were fights breaking out in the crowd right in front of the press box.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the same group that, booed Santa. So that is good. I think the elements are going to be the hardest part of it, the atmosphere. But the Cowboys are once again catching a break with the weather. When I looked at the schedule, I said Chicago in December and Philly in December. This is going to be tough. It's warmer there than it's been in Dallas.
Wow.
So that's good news. And they've been practicing outside this week.
Very good, very good. So if we flip it over onto the other side, then so our defense against the Eagles' offense, where can this game be won? Like it was great to see the general back in top form last weekend. The first time he's had an interception on a sack in the same game, and the D tackle seemed to show up. I think like Antoine Woods had probably his best game in a Cowboys jersey. So the defense really showed, apart from maybe the garbage time points they gave up. So where can we win it?
Yeah, I thought it was great for Antoine Woods. Of course, he was dealing with the arrest from the week before. So this was a big game, but I think he was huge. And the run, he is one of my favorite players on this team. Such a great spirit about him. He's so great about getting after the ball. And I think he really wanted to prove himself in this game. So he needs another prove-it game. And then, to your point, the general, Sean Lee, covering him last year and watching him sort of step aside and let Leighton Vander Esch shine was so admirable to me. And I talked to him after the game, and he said he felt like he needed to give that team that game because they have stuck with him through so many injuries and games that he couldn't be on the field. And if you watch the sidelines, he gave them the spark that they needed. So, I think it's going to be the linebackers. They've got a fairly efficient run game still in Philly, so that's something they're going to have to worry about. But in terms of the receiving game, I don't know who they're going to roll out there, quite frankly. They just literally keep losing all of their receivers this season.
Yeah, and to your point earlier there, like I was kind of going, who are we going to watch out for on their side of their offensive side of the game? And obviously Greg Ward is a converted cornerback. That he seemed to catch. I think he had 6 catches. And they had no one else bar Zach Ertz and Goddard,
Yeah, those guys have literally... Goddard has sort of been very inconsistent this year as well. And so I do think that this is the Cowboys game to have if they can put it all together. But I do think the atmosphere... Keep in mind, the Eagles are playing for their postseason as well. So I think that's what's going to make the interesting game. But I look at the health of this Cowboys team and them coming off that exhilarating win against the Rams, a team that had a very stout defense and saw what they were able to accomplish, something that shocked all of us, frankly. I think that they've got this catching a hot streak mentality right now.
Very good. Very good. So if we finalize things, and if you want to give us a hot take and a score prediction for Sunday.
I never give score predictions as a reporter because I've got to be as
unbiased
as possible. But I would say this: I do believe that the momentum feels like it's on this team's side. The locker room there was a weight that feels like it was lifted this week. The narrative that Jerry Jones has pushed in Dallas has been adversity is an opportunity to write a hell of a comeback story, and this would certainly be a hell of a comeback story if the Cowboys can get this done.
Very good. So, any crazy predictions? Like generally, we'll throw out, Jordan Lewis interception returned, my man Jeff Heath returning something. So, have you any crazy thoughts for?
I don't. They're so unpredictable, this team.
Yeah.
They're so inconsistent this year. It's so hard to have a here's what I think. So, but like I said, I do think that the Cowboys have got the momentum on their side. They've got the talent. They got the win that they needed ahead of the playoffs. My crazy prediction is I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl, but I definitely think they can win at least 2 games in the playoffs.
Wow.
And don't be surprised if they do that, the possibility of a return of Jason. That's my craziest take.
Very good. Very good. We'll definitely have to follow up with you in the off season on that one for sure. But Jane, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time. As we say, it's the busiest day in your week, so we really do appreciate you taking the time to come on with us.
No worries. Love the UK fans. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Jane.
No problem. Bye, guys.
Bye.